it shocks me, the things that I can wear around my house, and my husband wants to jump my bones. And he could look the best he's ever looked, and he'll be like, did you notice how I look? And I'm like, I mean, I noticed in like an aesthetic point of view, but it's not like when I see you wearing that, I want to do things to you that I won't say on this podcast.
Yeah. I think about the question you're asking yourself when you're getting dressed. What will so-and-so think? What will such and such say? Will I be on the best dress list? You've missed the goal and the opportunity of having your own personal style.
I just remember the thought so vividly one day walking on campus. And it was the first time I felt like absolute fish out of water. And the first time that I remember putting on things that I was like, yuck, ugh. Every room we walk into, you were so aware of what you're wearing.
Why do you guys think that the conversation around modesty has been so much more geared toward women than men? This statistic honestly blows my mind a little. 89.5% of the people who watch or listen to this podcast regularly aren't yet subscribers to the show. So before we dive in, could I ask you one thing? If this podcast has ever helped you, if you care about honest, unfiltered conversations around God's design for sex, dating, and relationships, would you hit subscribe? It's free and it helps us more than you know. And our promise to you is this: we'll do everything in our power to make this show the best it can be. We'll take your feedback, we'll keep answering your toughest questions, and there's no conversation around God's design for sex and relationships that we'll shy away from. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Talk About It podcast by Moral Revolution. My name is Ellis Madry, and today we are talking about one of the hottest topics, or commonly misunderstood topics in Christendom, which would be modesty. Here's the deal. A lot of people have a lot of opinions when it comes to modesty. And I think even some people would take issue with the fact that this conversation is all women. It's like, well, why do women have to have this conversation? So we're going to open up that. But I invited 3 incredible women to be here with us today. And let me tell you why these are the women who are here to talk with us. Not only are they incredible women who love God and have a conviction for his heart for modesty and holiness and purity and all of those things. They're in ministry, they're mothers, they're wives. They have walked this road. They've navigated it well, and they live with genuine conviction. But let me also say this: they're not hiding. They have fully leaned into their femininity. They have embraced what it is to be beautiful. They each have personal style that they showcase through the way that they dress. And I thought, okay, that is the exact type of women that we need, or the exact type of woman that we need having this conversation. And so I want to introduce Allie Valentin.
Good to be with you.
So glad you're here. We have Chantel Nelson.
Hello. Happy to be here too.
Absolutely. And we have Jamila Page.
How exciting. I love being here. Thanks for having me.
We couldn't be more stoked that you ladies are joining us. And as we dive in, I kind of want to give a few rapid fire get to know you prompts. These are just kind of like off the cuff, first thing that comes to your mind.
Love
and
it.
then we'll dive into the deeper things.
Get the mics ready, ladies.
I saw her bring it up. I'm like, okay, no.
That's right. Okay, here we go. Let me ask this. Have you ever been dress coded or called out for something that you were wearing?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Really? Where?
Well, I grew up in private Christian school. So like always dress code, always uniform. So definitely there for sure. But also my brother. I remember distinctly my older brother being like, girl, what are you wearing? Which is humbling. It's really humbling. So yeah.
I love
definitely.
it. I love it. Chantel, what about you?
It was on Instagram, but where somebody saw a photo, and I took maternity photos. This was like when I had my first, so this was like 9 years ago. And I was wearing like this lacy thing, but you're pregnant, so every bit of your body is a little bit more juicy than it normally is.
Yeah.
And there was just a little, maybe too much cleavage there. And so somebody messaged my husband saying, hey, I think your wife should maybe take that down.
Messaged the husband.
Yes.
All right.
And I had a little bit of like, oh, that's so embarrassing and really just uncomfortable. But the more that I thought about it, I'm like, I'm actually so grateful that someone actually was able to feel like they could call me out on that. Because when I went back and looked at it, I was like, oh, I can actually see why somebody would think that. But I think in your mind, it's like, it's a maternity photo. There's nothing really that hot about a maternity photo.
You'd be surprised.
Jamila, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I have definitely been called out. I identify with you, Allie, as far as my brother being the one to do it.
Wow.
But I've also been called out in the positive sense that was unwelcomed, right? Like the cat calling.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Okay.
So definitely.
What woman hasn't?
Right. So yeah, as you guys were sharing, I'm like, I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't have that kind of eyes on the way I dressed.
Yeah.
But most certainly the cat calling and the being appalled and having to like look at myself through a new lens because of the unwelcome attention. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so real. Let me ask you guys this. What's the first thing you notice about someone else's outfit?
I feel like the uniqueness, when it's like unique, it's not just like a plain t-shirt and whatever. It's probably what comes to my eye.
Comes to mind first.
I think the quality of clothing, like a heavyweight, something that looks like it's a step above or a cut above just the average, throwing something on.
Sure.
I just see the color. Like I love color.
I could see that for you.
Yes. Yeah. Right. For sure. Color.
Yeah, I love it. You are a colorful person when it comes to your wardrobe.
I know not today, but yes.
I love it. Has your husband ever had an opinion about something that you wore? And how to? And let me specify. Has your husband ever had a negative opinion about something that you wore?
Yes, 100%. My husband, because he's a designer and he's a creative and he has an eye for all things style. Yeah. He dressed me for many years. He would literally lay out my clothes on the bed every single day because I had when you're kind of go through pregnancy, postpartum, it's like, I don't even really know what looks good on me anymore. And so there was a season where he would dress me. But then when I started venturing out on my own and coming up with my own things, then he would say like, you're going to wear that? So yes, he definitely
That's a gentle way of inquiring. Allie, what about you?
Okay, that's an absolute gift. I'm like, please, somebody lay out my wardrobe for me every morning. Absolutely, Elijah. If you know my husband, he's a wild card. There's zero filter. So absolutely has made remarks, but normally it's not like has to do anything with modesty. If it was up to him, he would be like, maybe wear less. That'd be great. So that's where we're at.
Jamila?
I can't remember a time when Rich had a negative thing. Mostly it was just, you look beautiful, or he'll say things like, where are you going? You know what I mean? But never like, no, you can't wear that.
I can't imagine a negative word coming out of Rich's mouth.
Not
honestly.
him. No.
What's funny is Daniel and I kind of both have the same problem, which is we know when something is done badly and we know when something is done well, but we don't necessarily know how to bridge the gap between this isn't quite hitting to, oh yeah, that's a great outfit. And so I'll ask for feedback and be like, babe, what do you think? And he's like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Can't help you.
And that is just not the confidence inspiring answer you want when you're walking out the door. What is one fashion trend you guys think has gone too far?
Under boob.
Oh, is that a trend?
Oh my. Women who wear the very deep V-neck and you can see the crease or from this. I'm like, please, guys.
Yeah.
That was an immediate. I saw the question. For full disclosure, I saw the question early. I'm like, I'm answering that one.
I know it. I know what I'm going for.
Oh, honestly, this might be a hot take, and I own several pairs of these, but barrel jeans.
Oh.
I don't know what it is about them, but I just like I think it takes a specific body type to wear them and be able to rock them really, really well.
Yeah. Man, I know. I've been trying to think of one specific thing that's maybe relevant right now. I more so have thought, what's something that just like went on too long? And I don't know why I wore skinny jeans for like 15 years of my life. That's like one
I still
thing
have
for
a
sure.
stack.
Yeah, I know. They're there. And I'm like, I actually pray that they never come back. But I wore them for like the majority of my life. So
that is fantastic. Okay, I want to hear I really want to hear about y'all's personal stories when it comes to modesty. If it's not about a dress code, what is modesty about? And what do you guys think is the biblical heart behind modesty?
Pastor.
Jamila brought her Bible. She's ready. She's ready.
I think I should look it up.
Yeah,
I think I
please.
should look up the ESV version of, my daughter just read this in the car to me, and I was blown away. I asked her, read that again? Because I've never actually heard it this way before. Okay, so Paul's talking to the Corinthians about how to behave. They have a very different moral compass. And in verse 15 of chapter 6 in 1 Corinthians, do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a harlot? It was like, snatch my edges, grab my pearls. Absolutely not. So, I think in answer to the question, what is modesty? To me, it is the answer of the question, who do I represent and how am I representing them? That's what I would say.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I think it's funny. The questions that you shared earlier kind of get you to think back on where you actually learned about modesty and what's appropriate. And honestly, I think most of my story would be what wasn't shared with me and the why. I think growing up millennial is like you're told a lot of what to do, but you're not told a lot of why to do it. Like, don't have sex before marriage, make sure you cover up, but you're not actually sure why. And my kids, I'm like, I don't even know how my parents got away with just the what and not telling me the why, because my kids want to know why. And so I think if I would have known what it was that I was actually protecting and not just, you don't want to make anybody else stumble, you don't want to be that person, I would have been able to get on board in a way where I could have actually owned it. But it always felt like just a list of do's and don'ts, and it didn't ever really feel like I understood why. And so I think that was a journey I went on in later adulthood, is like, what does it actually mean to treat my body as a temple, and getting out of this space where it's like, it's just a list of rules of do's and don'ts, but you don't actually understand why. Because I grew up in a home, it was like, even the dress code was like, you couldn't show spaghetti straps, but we would wear the smallest shorts. And my mom would say nothing, but like the tiniest little shorts, but as long as our bra straps didn't show. And me and my sister would like giggle downstairs because we'd be like, this literally doesn't make any sense. But okay, let's put on our tiny shorts and then put a sweater over our bra straps. But we just didn't know why we had to protect it. And I think that was what was missing growing up.
Yeah, that's so real. What about you, Allie?
I feel like I can resonate a lot with that. I think just obviously being in Christian circles there, and it's especially millennial-esque early 2000s and youth group, you're always hearing the don't do this, don't do that, wear this. And I think, interestingly enough, like I grew up in Los Angeles, where I wouldn't say there's much of a value for modesty. That's not like culturally how people are dressing and expressing themselves. But I grew up within a Christian circle where that very much was a high value. And I think similarly, I didn't maybe necessarily always know why. And you could see the extremes on both, right? You could see the extremes of what I didn't want to be. And then also, I don't really fully know why I also am supposed to dress this certain way or behave this certain way. So I know as I was like thinking of this podcast, I was like, man, it's kind of probably been a lifelong journey that I don't even know if I've like totally found the words for, but it's definitely not been linear. I think there's been seasons of what modesty has looked like in my life. I don't know if modesty has always come from a healthy place though for myself. Like I think looking back, I don't enjoy like getting in trouble. So I just followed the rules. Like I just did what was expected. I never wanted to be called out for a dress code in school. So like I just wore the dress code. But as I got older, I think looking back, I realized like, oh, there were seasons when I just wore like athletic attire or covered up so much, not because I was not trying to get in trouble or be modest, but it was because I felt ashamed of my body. I didn't actually have a great relationship with my body. Therefore, I didn't want to draw any attention to it. So I just covered it up in ways that I felt comfortable in. And then I never got any sort of good or bad attention for what I was wearing. It just was like I could coast and that would be fine. And honestly, I don't think that I really came to terms with that until probably like my early to mid 20s. So like, oh, I actually don't know if the reason I'm doing this is actually coming from a good place versus kind of just following the rules, you know?
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I can remember growing up, coming from a slightly different perspective. Being a Black child, it mattered how we looked.
Yeah.
So deeply to my parents. So, hair in place and certain, iron your clothes, creases in your jeans, like crazy, house clothes versus outside clothes and all the things. And so a lot of growing up had to do with the image that I was giving off. And I was always told that the why was for self-respect or for opportunities that were harder to come by if you weren't dressed well or didn't carry yourself in a certain way, which it still like informs the way that I dress, but less in a legalistic way. Now more in I think it's now a part of how I just want to be portrayed. So, yeah.
Honestly, maybe a better internal driver than just your body is shameful. And
there was that too.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to reiterate the well-made point that women are
Totally.
definitely held to a standard around everyone else's conscious and their sexuality than our male counterparts.
Oh man, we'll go there, Jamila. Let me ask you this, Jamila, because you came from a non-Christian background into a Christian, you're a pastor today. And so, your revelation on this topic must have shifted through the years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Walk us through that a little bit.
I was in church in my 20s, single mom, because I had Jazz when I was 18. And I very much still wanted to be a young woman in my teens going out and having fun. So I would be in the club on Saturday night and in the pews on Sunday morning. It didn't matter if I got in at 5 a.m. We shower, we put on appropriate clothes, and we go to church. I can remember the very last time I walked into the club, I grew up in the 90s. So we're talking late 90s, early 2000s, where it was business in the front and then a bikini strap in the back. I don't know if you guys remember that look, but I had on this beautiful red sequined top. It had a cowl neck with what we call in my family, tirita straps, which would be spaghetti straps. So I'm wearing this really beautiful blouse in the front, but in the back, it's held together by bikini strings. And I knew I had to double knot it because there would be some guy at the club that would pull it, right? So you double knot it, make sure it's secure. And I wore the bell bottom, at that time, bell bottoms were coming back in, but they were very, very tight on top and flare out in the bottom. So I'm walking in and I just know I'm the business and I'm getting catcalls. And in my mind, I'm like, don't they know who I am? I am a college 4.0 student. I work full time. I'm a mom. They should respect me. And this voice I now recognize as the Lord said to me, well, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, I was appalled. I was like, dang, I'm doing this to myself. I can remember throwing that blouse away. And I never went to the club again. But that was the shift in my mind. It's like, I am responsible for how I am portraying myself. And if I'm dressing in any way, trying to elicit a response, I should at least spend the energy on a response I want. And that top just wasn't doing it. And that setting wasn't doing it. So there was like a double whammy. But that was a pivotal shift in my perspective on how I brought myself to any environment. Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Let me ask you guys this. For women who grew up hearing cover up so you don't cause your brother to stumble. Like the causing someone else to stumble I would say it was a huge motivator of the modesty conversation in a Christian upbringing. How do you untangle that from an actual healthy theology and belief system around modesty?
Man, I feel like you could go so many ways with this question, but the first thing that sort of comes to mind, I mean, I can resonate with that. I'm like, I remember youth camps. Girls had to wear a black t-shirt over your two-piece if you were going to wear a two-piece, and otherwise you better be in a one-piece. And so you were left with this feeling of like, my body is it's causing somebody else to stumble, which is it's an interesting thing to have to sort out at, 12 years old, to figure out what does that even mean. I have no idea what it feels like to be a guy, let alone my body's changing and I have no idea what to do with this. And now I'm just being told to put a shirt over it. So there's a lot to that. I think a lot has to go back to that verse where we're told that our body is a temple. And if, looking back on how the Israelites actually cared for the temple, there was such a reverence for the temple, but also there was a purpose for it, and it was to glorify God. And I think the same way our body, right, has been created as a vessel of the Holy Spirit, but for a purpose to glorify Him. And so I guess I walk this fine line with that. Is it solely my responsibility to make sure somebody else doesn't stumble? That's a lot of pressure for a 12-year-old girl, right? That's a lot of pressure. At the same time, are you carrying and caring for your body in a way, knowing that its purpose is to glorify God? That's a unique one to walk out as well and sort out and sort of figure out. And I think it's kind of what we're all saying of, it's been a journey. Yeah. I don't know if you, in every season and phase of life, it's going to look exactly the same, right? But I think going back to that sort of concept of, it is my responsibility. And at the same time, I'm not sure it's solely my responsibility.
Right. Totally.
That's kind of where I land with that.
I was diving into the scriptures on this a little bit today, and it's interesting because the scriptures that are in, and I have them right here. It's a lot in Romans 14. And then also in 1 Corinthians 8 that talks about not being a stumbling block to others. But pretty much every time Paul brings up not being a stumbling block to others, it's about what believers were eating back in the day. And those verses in context are about not violating the conscience of another person. So it's not actually like, don't become a stumbling block lustfully. In fact, in Matthew 5, where Jesus addresses a lust issue, he says, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Okay, that puts the responsibility of someone who is looking at someone else lustfully on the person who is looking, not the person who is being looked at.
That's right.
And so that's where I'm going back and I'm like, oh, this was the wrong motivator the whole time. We built an entire theology around the stumbling block, and it was misapplied.
Come on.
And the reality is, modesty from the very beginning was exactly what you're saying. It's about glorifying God with your body. Why? Because your body is sacred.
That's right. That's
like,
right.
God made my body as something good, and it's worth protecting.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Let's tell our daughters that.
Well, I think there's so much shame around bodies and around in the church. And I just remember it's like this strange thing that happens when you get married, that all of a sudden this thing that you've spent your whole life covering up, not crossing boundaries, not talking about, nobody telling you really what's going on. Like, because there wasn't a lot of conversation about what was happening in my body, what puberty was. Like, I remember like sneaking tampons out of my mom's room because I didn't know how to tell her that I had a period. And then all of a sudden you go from that to now all of a sudden everything's okay. And and I'm a life coach, so I coach so many people on purity, like walk them through what purity culture did and the damage that it did and how much shame that they carry into marriage and how they don't know how to parent their daughters through it because they themselves weren't taught about their sexuality. And I think we just think that sexuality is just such a bad word, and we don't talk about sexuality till there's a ring on your finger. But sexuality is so much more than, do I have sex before marriage or not? And I think that that's what the church made it. It's like, we don't talk about sex. Did anybody get like a purity ring?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Where you had to sign a contract? Did you have to sign a contract?
I would have just wanted a ring.
Like, I had to sign a little ceremony.
Yeah,
ceremony.
Wow. I didn't get a ceremony, just a ring.
Where you have to sign a contract and then you're like, now I'm bound by this thing, but I don't understand why. And then when you trade it out for a wedding ring, all of a sudden, all that shame is just supposed to disappear, and you're supposed to be comfortable in your sexuality. And it's just, I think shame has created such this toxic culture of what I just don't think it's ever. And I think a lot of shame infiltrated in the modesty conversation. And I think what you were saying, it is a double-edged coin in the sense of my responsibility is not to cause you not to stumble. Like everybody has personal responsibility. Like it's my job to manage me. It's your job to manage you. But at the same time, I know this isn't the same thing, but it's like if I know somebody has an alcohol issue, I'm not just going to invite them over to my house, show them my spread of alcohol and be like, don't drink it, but I'm just going to
shame
leave it
them for wanting
here.
to.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And so at the same time, I'm like, I understand. And because I've talked to, my husband and I were youth pastors, and we've talked to young guys, and it is they are wired differently.
Yeah.
And we are not in the same way. I wouldn't say everybody across the board, but as women, but we are not as physically stimulated by something that we see. It takes a lot more for us to get there. And so recognizing how they are wired as well and honoring that. But it is, like you said, it feels like it's both and.
Yeah.
And it does feel like there's a pendulum shift because of it. So I'm raised in a society that shames me for how I'm made.
Yeah.
And now we see society saying, well, here's what I'm going to do with that shame. I'm going to bear everything.
Yeah.
And not have any regard whatsoever and make you feel something because, and make you feel negatively for your natural impulse. I love what you just said as far as how men's eyes and connection to their physical bodies are wired. Yeah. It's flowers to bees.
It is, yeah.
We are beautiful and gorgeous, and we were meant to be alluring to the man who was willing to pay the price called covenant.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were made for his pleasure and enjoyment. And in the same token, I'm not saying that, as women, we can't experience pleasure and that we have no control. What I am saying is to swing the pendulum all the way back to where there is no more modesty in media, and women are showing way more than what was once considered inappropriate or appropriate. I feel like we've missed the point, because I think about the question you're asking yourself when you're getting dressed. If the answer or the question is, what will so-and-so think? What will such and such say? Okay. Will I be on the best dress list? That sort of thing. You've missed the goal and the opportunity of having your own personal style.
Right.
Which is not to appease or even entice others, but to look in the mirror. I do this every morning. I look in the mirror, and when I'm fully satisfied with how I look, my self-consciousness disappears. Mm-hmm. So I might look crazy because I have lettuce in my teeth, which we talked about. But the point is that I am so comfortable and confident with what I put on this morning that I can now go through my day other focused.
Jamila, walk us through that practically. You get up in the morning, you choose your outfit, you stand in front of the mirror. What do you say?
Yeah, the thought in my mind is, who am I or who am I becoming? And does what I'm about to put on clearly and accurately portray that image? Yep. Do I like what I see? So people come up and they're like, oh, you look so beautiful. And I'm like, the compliment doesn't move me because I've already answered the question. I like it. And I think it is it embodies or portrays exactly who I am, or at least where I'm going or who I'm becoming. So you can have all kinds of responses, right? Yeah. So I wake up in the morning. I usually think about where I'm going for that day. We call it here at Bethel, Revival Ready. And so in my mind, ministry mind, working with my students, they could fall on the floor from an encounter with the Lord, and I'm just there to comfort them. So when I bend down, is my blouse gonna expose parts that are not for anyone's consumption? Sure. When I lift my hands to worship the Lord, if somebody happened to catch that, would they catch a glimpse of my midriff? That matters to me. So I'm in the mirror and I'm putting on my clothes with that in mind, because I am a representative of the Lord. Now, The aspect of, do I like it? Well, I'm not even going to buy it if I don't like it. But how many women are out there buying clothes thinking about like, I remember being in my 20s and thinking the best dressed person at church is going to like this. Or the person who would, DM my husband and talk about how I'm dressed is going to be satisfied. And I would shop like that for over a decade. Now I'm finally at the point where like, I don't like that. I'm not going to wear that.
Right.
Or I do like that and I can forget about how I look now because I'm very sure I've taken the final look in the mirror and I'm satisfied.
Because it's not performative.
Right.
Yeah.
You have removed performance from the equation.
Right.
And you're dressing out of a conviction for, this is who God created me to be. This is who I'm becoming.
Right.
Yeah. Man, that's so good.
And I think that would be the gift we could give our generation. I think you all like embody that so beautifully. So what if we did change the narrative to be more biblically accurate?
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
What gifts could we give the next generation?
Well, because I think we're often looking for a rule book.
Mhm.
Like I think, and that's kind of where we go off course sometimes, right? Because like you said, there's no rule book. It's like I get in front of the mirror and my conscience, disappears. I just am like content with how I feel versus like, okay, are my bra straps showing? Are my fingers, beyond the tips of my shorts? Where I think like, oh, that's a profound way.
Yeah.
What if we approached it like that, where we're way more in tune with our internal, like what's driving me to dress like this? What's the internal driver right now versus am I performing? Am I appeasing somebody else's wishes and desires for how I dress?
Right.
So that would be a beautiful way to approach it. Totally.
Let me ask you guys this. If you're talking to the person who's listening to this and they're going, okay, I am for sure dressing for other people's attention or validation, how do I make that internal shift to, I'm dressing out of conviction? And that can still be awesome. I can still dress like I know what's up. You know what I mean? Like it's 2026. I know how to carry myself.
Yes.
But it's not for others. It's for myself. It's for the Lord. How do you make that internal shift?
I mean, I think there's a level of self-expression that comes with when you get dressed. And I think whether it's fads or trends or styles, we kind of all just try and mimic that, which I think there's some fun and beauty in that, how the trends and the fads are always changing. I definitely think that with style, I like to go more with what actually feels like it's me and how do I express who I feel like I am. Like I'm not the colorful, I don't wear a lot of color. I'm very like chill, just like everything is kind of classic and it will probably be in style in a couple of years.
Yes.
But I'm like, it took me so long of following different fads and trends and styles and fashions before I could actually figure out I can't actually keep up with all of the changing of the guards. And so what actually feels like it expresses me in different seasons, especially as moms, when your body changes so much, it can feel so hard to keep up with what everybody else is doing. And so I think that there's a level of self-expression that has to, I mean, it's like answering the question of why do I do this for other people in terms of what I say, what I wear, how I clean my house, the food that I feed my kids. Like there's so many areas of our life where we're mimicking what somebody else is doing, or we're mimicking a trend on social media where you only feed your kids these kinds of things. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I have to do what works for me. I have to do what works for my season. And I have to be able to feel like when I put these clothes on or feed my kids that this is like the truest expression of who I am in this season. That might change in the next season. I might decide that I love color all of a sudden and you find me in it every day. But for now, it's
That would be a plot twist.
And you would rock it
Maybe
so
it's
well. Like, you would be amazing in anything.
I know.
But I think a part of even the simplicity of my style is like, I'm a mom of 3, almost 4 kids. I can't all of the colors and the different pieces. I don't have time. In the morning when I go to my closet, I want to feel like it's just everything goes together. It doesn't matter what I pick. It's all going to go. It's all going to be comfortable. I'm going to be able to pick up kids and I'm at the park all the time. I'm in school drop-offs. Like my life is just different. Like maybe in a different season when my kids are older, there's a different way that I can express myself. But I think to answer your question, it's like, how do you get out of that space of constantly mimicking what somebody else is doing? And it's the same that you would do for anything else. Like, who am I? Who am I? And how do I express myself? And how do I feel like I can be true to myself in the season that I'm in?
Mm-hmm.
So good.
100%. That question, who am I?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm guessing that the folks who would be watching this are starting to question that from a more existential place.
Yeah.
So who am I? Who does God say that I am? What is it that he says I'm like? How would I envision someone dressing that was described by divine standards?
Yeah.
And I think that the answer can look as varied as there are the number of people on the earth.
Yeah.
I definitely think the question of intent is a big one.
Yes.
Am I dressing with the intent to move others?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is a form of manipulation,
Go there, Jamila.
right? So if I'm dressing in a certain way that would communicate that I want you to see me or do something with me or believe something about me, I am trying to manipulate the way you think.
Yes.
Right.
And how many of us are like trying to make sure that we ourselves don't get manipulated? So why would we then turn ourselves into a manipulator? And I love what you said as far as Chantel, as far as looking at it from a functionality, but also looking at the needs of those around you, so that those scripture that can or have been applied to modesty do have a place, but they are not the chief question.
Yeah.
Who am I?
It's so good.
Who does God say that I am?
Yeah.
And does what I wear actually portray that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love even the first question you ask is, what is the first thing that you guys notice when it comes to style? And all of ours was completely different.
Yes.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Which is probably a reflection of what
Right.
God has spoken to us about who are you and what makes you you when you get dressed in the morning.
I love that.
What does the queen of your kingdom dress like?
Right. It's so good.
I mean,
It's so good. I remember being in, like I said earlier, I mean, in high school, it was uniforms every single day, which I actually personally loved. I never had to think about what I was wearing. I just like got up and put on the polo and plaid skirt every day. And then I went off to college and I went to a major public university. And I remember it was the first time that I was really confronted with the choice, like for myself, outside of my parents' home, like, who am I? How am I going to represent myself in this world when everyone around me, I just remember the thought so vividly one day walking on campus, this is the world. Like they're subjects to whatever the world is telling them to do. And it was the first time I felt like absolute fish out of water. And the first time that I remember putting on things that I was like, that feeling when you leave the house in the morning and you're like all day, you're just like, yuck. Ugh. Every room you walk into, you are so aware of what you're wearing because you're not comfortable in it. You're like, this is not me. This is not who am I. This is not it. This is absolutely not it. I just remember that season of like trying to figure it out. And it can feel so vulnerable in those moments where you're like, I want to be uniquely myself. And also everyone around me is doing something completely different than what I feel like is me. And how do I actually grow in confidence to actually live in a level of modesty that nobody else has? Like, I'm not going to participate in that undie run because that's not me.
Do you remember Runaway Bride?
Yes.
Julia Roberts, her main thing was every guy would say she had a different style of egg that was her favorite. And what you'd find out is they'd say, how does she like her eggs? Just like me.
Oh, yes.
She likes broiled. She likes, don't broil your eggs. But I think about this in that way. Like maybe you just need to go to a store and try out all these different styles. And like, honestly, you're the only opinion that matters. And you answer, do I like what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Do I like how this fits? Do I like the color? Do I like,
Totally.
that sort of thing. But yeah, I just think about her sitting in that movie eating all the eggs.
That is so funny.
So she can finally answer the question once and for all.
What a throwback. I want to shift the conversation a little bit to the double standard around the conversation around modesty. Because, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, it's like, okay, great, a conversation about modesty that's super practical. It can help a lot of people. Why is it women, again, talking about modesty. Why don't men talk about modesty? Why do you guys think that the conversation around modesty has been so much more geared toward women than men?
Because men are so much more visually stimulated.
Yeah.
I think. And like, it shocks me the things that I can wear around my house and my husband wants to jump my bones. And he could look the best he's ever looked and he'll be like, did you notice how I look? And I'm like, no, I did. I mean, I notice in like an aesthetic point of view, but it's not like when I see you wearing that, I want to do things to you that I won't say on this podcast. And so I think it's a double standard, yes, but I also think we're wired so differently.
Yeah.
And like, nobody is telling a boy to put on a shirt at youth camp because the girls are going to be turned on by their small abs and tiny little prepubescent pecs. And so I think it's because I remember looking like they're wearing these tiny little shorts and they don't have to wear any shirt. And here I am in an oversized t-shirt.
In a Reading summer.
But I'm not moved in the same way that they are. And so I think the conversation has been very heightened and it's gotten a lot of, it's a heightened conversation. But I think when it comes down to it, it's like, I'm not moved by the way that a guy dresses in the same way that he is moved when I dress a certain way. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
And I definitely think the male voice was the voice of leadership at the time that these standards were erected or put in place. And so you would have their perspective driving the discussion or driving the standard for that reason.
Yeah,
they were the leaders of the day, the governors, the church pastors and priests. They were the leaders of the home. They were the ones allowed to do business.
Right.
We did not have the right to have credit cards in the United States of America till 1974. So
That's wild.
yeah, that's just crazy to think about.
It
But
is, yeah.
that's, I think, another really big reason why, of course, we became the bearers of the responsibility.
I don't think that it should stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the conversation should stay just geared and pointed at women, truthfully. I think getting married and having really honest conversations, obviously, with a man, you realize like, oh my gosh, like this is a whole other world that you live in. But I remember one time Elijah telling me, and I'm like, this, at first I was like, whoa, that's the reality of your I pray to God I never to handle this. But I remember him saying like, it is a man's responsibility when a beautiful woman walks in to decide what he does with his thoughts. Like he is the gatekeeper of his mind but I never heard that growing up. It was always, like we've said, multiple times, it's your job. Don't make them stumble. When in fact, where's the conversation that should be being had with men about how to actually take hold of their mind and what does it actually look like to really practically do that as a man? And how can we have open and honest conversations about this even, on both sides?
Totally. I think there's an entire aspect to the modesty conversation. We get so bogged down in the how are you dressing side of the conversation that we forget that modesty applies to so many other things. Like, let's talk about the way that we present ourselves to the world in terms of material possessions or things that you have. And when you lose that side of it, let's see, what scripture was it? If 1 Timothy 2:9-10 says, I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes, but with good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of the heart behind this scripture was more about what these elaborate hairstyles, gold, pearls, and expensive clothes were saying about one's worth when it came to like material possessions.
Yes.
It had so much little to do, it was so much less to do with the way that they were dressing in terms of like, are you showing too much skin?
Right.
And more to do with what the things that you're putting on communicates about what you value to the world.
Right.
And that is where I think that this conversation applies to men and to women.
Yes.
Because what are we, what we put on our bodies exposes what we value.
Yes, that's right.
And as Christians, we have to be grounded in this understanding that what we value comes directly from the Lord.
Yes.
We value the things of God. The material possessions, they come and they go. Maybe they come, maybe they go. They're here today, gone tomorrow. But like what is steadfast and unchanging is the Lord. And so the way that I act, the way that I carry myself, the things that I wear represent that. And that's man or woman.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. As we wrap up, I want to ask you guys this question. What do you think is one thing the church needs to stop saying about modesty?
I feel like you beautifully articulated it just now, that modesty is just about aesthetic. I think the church needs to stop saying that it is solely about how you adorn yourself and fill in the vacuum that creates, which is, well, then what does modesty actually look like?
Yeah.
So if it can't be that I'm portraying something to others to manipulate their thinking, or it can't be that I'm displaying a value in something that's far beneath my calling in God, then what is it? So I guess the idea that modesty is just related to the sexual response from others on how you're dressed, and fill that vacuum. Now, what is modesty actually for and about?
So good.
I think maybe less, not about what they should talk about less, but I think putting more ownership, like more emphasis on personal responsibility. I think there's almost a level of codependency that the church has taught us to live in, where it's like, you don't cause them to stumble. And it's putting the responsibility in the wrong place, rather than teaching each gender how to actually steward what God has given us. Because God wired a man differently. He wired a woman differently. And there has to be more gender specific teaching on how me as a woman manages myself and men manage themselves. And rather than grouping us all in one or singling out one more than the other, is just teaching personal responsibility for how we're wired.
Yeah, so good. Chantel, you have boys and you have a little girl. How would you approach this conversation differently? Like when you're teaching each one to manage themselves, what does that sound like?
Yeah, I mean, my daughter's only 3. And so, but even still, when she puts on a cute little dress, like she does this little hip wag that I'm like, I never taught you that. And so there's like this, but even I think about her sexuality, like I think about her beauty. I think about the way that her body is made and it's beautiful and she's learning to find herself in it. And I think it's going to be a journey for me as a mom to figure out and learn how to actually steward that, but not have her flaunt it, but not have it shut down. And how do you find that beautiful space in the middle where she gets to find and embody her sexuality, like teach her how to live and move and have her being in the body that God gave her. And I never want to shut it down and I never want to shame it, but I also don't want to just let her go out there and do whatever she wants with it. And so again, she's only 3. And so this is something that I'll be on a journey with. But my boys they ask a lot of questions. They talk a ton about it. Like even a couple of my girlfriends this morning, we were talking about how our kids just ask us like the most intense questions about which part goes where and how does it get in there. And it's just like they ask a lot of questions, which I love it because I'm like, I never felt liberty to have any of those kinds of questions.
Yeah.
And so, and we have age appropriate conversations, but I think honestly, the age appropriate conversations now are getting younger and younger because of what they're continually exposed to. And so we've been having these conversations. I'm not teaching my boys like how to dress, like that's not even a topic of conversation.
Sure.
But it's just answering all of their questions. And I want them to be able to feel like they can come to me with whatever it is that they have questions about. But I don't know, my kids are still so young. And so maybe Jamila can answer this better.
Yeah, I asked my son when he called home to say he wanted to marry his wife, what does God say about her? So always reminding them of that image being more important or even more real than the image that the world has taught us to pay attention to. So, and I do this with my male students as well. Like, what has God said about that woman that you're looking at? What does God think about her? How does he feel? Do you remember that she's his daughter and that he had a purpose in mind when he fashioned her? And are you willing to pay the cost called covenant in order to now incorporate those tingles into the way you view her? If the answer is no, then you need to take that to the Lord and ask him to superimpose his image of her onto your mind. And then the same thing for women, young women, my daughters. I'm talking to them about self-respect. One of the best things I ever taught my daughters was sass.
Yes. Yes.
Be sassy. I need you to tell me, call me out. It's one of my favorite things. They're all, my youngest is 20 now.
Wow.
And so I love that. Like, there was one day I was trying on a shirt that I had gotten online. And I'm wearing it and I'm tugging on it and I'm saying, this is wrong and that's wrong. And Joy, my 22-year-old, she says to me, stop it. That's your body dysmorphia talking. And I was like, ugh. I equal parts cried and laughed at the same time because I was like, yes, that's what I need you to do. Because I think sass is a precursor to self-advocacy and self-respect. So to me, it's teaching the girls, my girls, how to see themselves from that pure perspective. And like you said earlier, Chantel, you don't have to necessarily lean in on on image or sexual image with girls the same way you would with guys just because of the way they're made.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Allie, I wanted to ask you this before we wrapped.
Yeah.
To the woman who did grow up in purity culture and is like, okay, I've been hiding.
Yes.
I have been hiding my body, not out of shame, fill in the blank of what it's out of. And I want to walk in God's design for modesty and have a conviction for what he values and also not be hiding anymore.
Yeah.
What would you say to her?
Oh man, that's a vulnerable place to be. And I've been there. I would say it's okay if it's clunky. Like, it's okay to try and feel awkward and unsure and go on a real honest journey of what does it look like to love myself? What does that actually look like? I thought I was loving myself by hiding. I thought I was loving myself by not drawing attention to any form of beauty that I was carrying. Like, I thought that was safe and right. And so to even crack open the question, like, wait, could loving myself actually look different? Like, what would it look like to take care of myself and to actually invest in things that I feel beautiful in? Yeah. And what if it's completely different than what has felt safe? And who are people in my life that can give me real, honest feedback that I trust to open up this part of my life to? Because it is so vulnerable as a woman. Oh my gosh, like your body is vulnerable, and the fact that people have things to say about it, and it's such a journey. So I'm like, it's okay if it's clunky. Yeah, it's okay to ask the hard questions and to go on a real honest journey of what does this look like.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process.
It is. Yeah. I can remember that for me, the turning point was I worked for I won't drop her name, but just a powerful woman in ministry, someone I had looked up to for years and years and years. And then I found myself on her staff working closely with her. And she came up to me a few different times in various meetings. And I would wear like baggier clothes. And I remember one day she pulled my baggy shirt tighter on me. And she said, Ellis, you have such a great little figure and you're hiding it.
Wow.
And it was permission for me to not hide anymore. Yeah. She wasn't saying you need to expose yourself, because here I have the pinnacle of a woman who values herself, who knows exactly what God said about her, who's just amazing. But she's saying, I see you, but you're hiding. Yeah. And I would just say to the young woman who's listening to this and who's battled those thoughts, stop hiding. God has an amazing plan for your life. He's put a divine calling on you, and he doesn't want you to hide. He does call you to dress in a way that honors him, but it's not out of any sort of shame because of what society has put on you. It's out of a conviction for who he's made you to be, and an understanding that your body is beautiful and it's worth protecting. And so, ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. It's been so good. I can't wait to see how it impacts so many young women, and couldn't be more honored that y'all would join us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
I love it. All right, guys, we will see you on the next episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Bye. Imagine what could shift if your whole community heard this message live. Here's the thing, we don't just podcast. We travel across the world to high schools, colleges, churches, young adult gatherings, talking openly and honestly about God's design for sex, dating, and relationships. If you've ever thought, my group needs to hear this, we would love to come. Just hit the link in the show notes to bring the moral revolution message to your world. Let's have this conversation together.